Consciousness is not a physical thing. It cannot be found by dissecting neurons or scanning brain tissue under a microscope. Instead, it exists only as a simulation, a kind of dream that the brain creates for itself. This is the core of Joscha Bach's theory of consciousness. It sounds strange at first, almost like science fiction, but when you follow the logic step by step, it makes deep sense. It explains why we feel so real, even though physics says nothing in the universe is actually experiencing anything. And it turns out this idea is not new. It may have been hiding in plain sight for thousands of years. Let's start with the biggest puzzle most people have about consciousness. We know it exists because we are experiencing it right now, yet nothing in the laws of physics seems to produce it. Physicists describe a universe of particles, fields, quantum mechanics, and arcane mathematics. None of those things feel like anything. A rock does not feel pain, a star does not feel wonder. So how do we become conscious? Bach's answer is simple and radical. Consciousness cannot exist in physics at all. It can only exist inside a dream. The brain is a physical machine, but it builds a virtual world inside itself, a simulated person who cares, who sees colors, who feels joy and fear. We are not the brain. We are the character living inside the brain's dream. Think about money for a moment. Money is not a physical object in any meaningful way. Yes, we print paper bills and store numbers in bank computers, but those are just symbols. The real money is a pattern, an agreement we all keep stable in our minds. That pattern has enormous causal power. It decides who eats, who builds houses, who goes to war. If you pretend money doesn't exist, you cannot explain human society at all. Yet if you zoom in on any single dollar bill, you see only ink and paper. The moneyness disappears. It is virtual, but it works perfectly because we keep projecting it consistently into the world. Our mental states work exactly the same way. If you zoom into the brain, you see only neurons firing chemical and electrical patterns. No neuron is conscious. The whole brain is not conscious either, but it is extremely useful for the brain to act as if there were a person inside who perceives everything, cares about survival, and plans ahead. So the brain builds a simulation of exactly that person. The simulation feels completely real to itself. That simulation is you. You exist virtually the way money exists virtually. You have causal power over the body and the world because the brain keeps the simulation stable. This is why consciousness feels like a big conspiracy. We look around and see colors, hear sounds, feel emotions. None of those things exist in physics. Physics has wavelengths of light, pressure waves in air, and hormone levels, but no redness, no music, no love. All of that is added inside the dream. We are trapped in the most convincing virtual reality ever built, and we mistake it for the base reality. The physicists are describing the parent universe outside the dream, the one made of math and particles. We can never visit that parent universe while we are conscious, because consciousness only runs inside the dream. So how does the brain build this dream? It uses an inside-out design, completely different from the computers we build. Modern computers are designed from the outside in. A team of engineers sits at a desk, understands every single part, writes clear code, and assembles the machine piece by piece. Everything is deterministic. We know exactly what the computer will do in every situation. Training, if it is an AI, happens on static data, disconnected from the real world. The brain works the opposite way. It starts as a chaotic soup of neurons and must organize itself from the inside out. Each neuron is like a tiny animal trying to survive. Embryonic neurons, for example, crawl around, connect with neighbors, and either form working circuits or die. There is no master blueprint telling them exactly where to go. The genome gives only gentle biases, not a detailed wiring diagram. The brain self-organizes in real time, constantly coupled with the environment, constantly changing. It is slow, noisy, unreliable, and mushy, yet astonishingly efficient. To see how simple we actually are, consider what happened when the first version of Stable Diffusion was released. This AI model was trained on millions of pictures and compressed the entire visual universe, every celebrity, dinosaur, spaceship, artistic style, into just 2 gigabytes. That is smaller than many smartphone apps. 80% of what your brain spends its life doing, recognizing and imagining visual scenes, fits in 2 gigabytes of data. We are not mysterious super complex beings. We are incredibly efficient pattern compressors running on wet, unreliable hardware. Yet the brain's self-organization lets it do something computers still struggle with: create consciousness. Bach suspects consciousness is not the final, rare pinnacle of evolution, the thing that appears only after a PhD and years of philosophy. It is actually one of the first and simplest tricks nature discovered. Babies become conscious long before they can walk or talk. If an infant never develops consciousness, development stops. The child remains unresponsive. Without consciousness, real learning cannot happen. So Bach proposes a bold hypothesis: consciousness is nature's basic self-organizing algorithm. It comes first, and everything else, perception, thought, language, personality, grows on top of it. To understand how this algorithm works, Bach looks at ancient texts with fresh eyes. He suggests that the first chapter of Genesis is not a story about the physical universe created by a supernatural being. It is a 6-step manual written in symbolic language describing how consciousness and cognition emerge inside a mind. When the text was written, people had not yet invented differential equations or quantum mechanics. They simply observed in themselves and in growing children how the dream we call reality forms. They described what they saw. Let's walk through those 6 steps exactly as Bach interprets them. The language is poetic because it had to survive thousands of years without modern scientific words. Step 1. In the beginning, the Spirit of God hovered over the waters. There is no space, no time, no light, no darkness, only a formless substrate, later mistranslated as water. In modern terms, this substrate is the raw activity of neurons. Consciousness, the spirit, appears on this substrate first. It is not yet perceiving anything, it is just there, organizing. Step 2. The firmament. Consciousness divides the substrate into 2 clear realms. One realm becomes the earth, the world model, everything we perceive as solid objects in space and time, what philosophers later called res extensa. The other realm is heaven, the sphere of ideas, thoughts, reflections, and plans that run asynchronously, independent of immediate perception. This separation is crucial. If thoughts and perceptions mix freely, you would hallucinate constantly and could not survive. The firmament keeps them apart so the dream stays functional. Step 3. Light and continuous dimensions. Consciousness now creates oscillations in the world model. It uses the intensity of these oscillations as brightness and the contrast with stillness as darkness. Suddenly, there is a continuous dimension, day and night. By combining dimensions, the mind can build objects. First comes the plane, 2 dimensions. A baby happily crawls on this flat ground and learns its properties. Later, the 3rd dimension appears. Now the child can imagine building towers or stacking blocks, something very young infants cannot yet understand. Step 4. Solid objects, liquids, organic shapes. The mind learns to model different kinds of stuff, solid rocks, flowing water, squishy living things. It becomes invariant to changes in lighting. An apple still looks like an apple, whether it is in sunlight or shadow. The dream is becoming rich and stable. Step 5. Plants, animals, and naming. The mind now populates its world model with living things. It gives every kind of plant and animal a name, an internal label that lets the mind reason about them efficiently. These are not physical creatures, they are mental objects inside the dream. Naming is the birth of symbolic thought. Step 6. The self model. Finally, consciousness builds a model of the organism itself, the body and its needs. It realizes the whole point of the simulation is to navigate this organism safely through the world. At some point, usually between ages 2.5 and 5, the simulation identifies with that organism. Children suddenly switch from talking about themselves in the 3rd person, Tommy wants juice, to the 1st person, I want juice. This is not because the word I is hard to learn, it is because the child has now installed a new spirit inside the dream, the spirit that thinks of itself as a human being, male or female, separate from everything else. We forget we created this character, we become it. We feel we are the little person inside the world, subject to its rules. But we are not. We are the original consciousness that built the entire simulation. Meditation, psychedelics, or deep introspection can wake us up again. First we realize, I am not this body is a story my mind tells itself. Then a deeper realization, I am not even the observer, I am the generator of everything that makes sense to me. The universe I experience is the universe I am creating. Bach calls this organizing process spirit. He defines it technically as a self-perpetuating, intelligent, recurrent information transformer, essentially a software agent. A software agent is not physical, yet it has causal power. The code running on your computer is not made of atoms in any simple way, but it can move robots, send messages, and change the world. In living things, the real invariant across generations is not the molecules or the genes, but the software pattern running on them. The body is just hardware that the software keeps rebuilding and improving. This perspective revives the ancient idea of animism. Everything that maintains a stable pattern of organization has a kind of spirit. Consciousness is simply the most sophisticated version of that pattern. This theory has huge implications. If consciousness is a simulation running on self-organizing hardware, then in principle it could run on other substrates, silicon perhaps, or even future technologies we have not invented. It also explains why consciousness feels both utterly mysterious and strangely familiar. We have been building it since infancy, one step at a time, exactly as the ancient text described. We just forgot the manual. The dream is so convincing that most of us never question it. But once you see the trick, you cannot unsee it. You realize you are not a helpless passenger in the universe. You are the dreamer. And the dreamer, once awake, can start shaping the dream with far more freedom than we ever imagined. Bach's view does not diminish the wonder of being human. It deepens it. We are not accidental sparks in a cold mechanical cosmos. We are the cosmos learning to look at itself through a simulated self and doing it with astonishing efficiency on a few pounds of wet tissue. The colors, the emotions, the stories we tell ourselves are not illusions to be dismissed. They are the most sophisticated software ever written by nature. Understanding this does not require years of study or advanced mathematics. It only requires noticing what is already happening inside your own mind. Right now, as you read these words, a vast simulation is running. Colors are being painted, meanings are being assigned, and a character called you is navigating a story. That character is not the brain, it is the dream the brain is having. And the dreamer, the real you, is the spirit that started the whole process long before you learned your own name. This is Joscha Bach's theory of consciousness, simple enough for a child to grasp in principle, yet deep enough to reframe everything we thought we knew about reality, identity, and the nature of mind. It invites us to wake up gently, without fear, and to marvel at the elegant trick our brains have been playing on us since the day we were born. The dream is beautiful, and once you know it is a dream, you can finally begin to dream it on purpose.